Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Kara Montero.
How does one find an apartment in Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic? That is what we are talking about today, and we're specifically going to go through some of the steps that we took for me to find this apartment. One of the biggest steps was having help on the ground. So today we brought in the person who did it all, my husband. What is that? So everybody say welcome.
Welcome me.
We're going to give you 10 steps or 10 guidelines, things to consider when you're looking for your apartment. You can't speak on the entire island. This is at least what we did for Santo Domingo. So in the US, a lot of apartment buildings are run as a building, at least from what I've gathered. And they all sort of tend to be leased in the same way by the building management.
On an organization there.
Yeah, like an organization. Here, it's not so much like that. Like, you live in a pretty big residential complex, and you would think that there would just be one person or one group that runs it all, and everyone pays sort of the same rent, but
No.
it's not like that. There can be landlords renting out individual ones. Some of them are for sale to buy, and others are rented out by lawyers. So
Yes, or the owner.
yeah, so you'll find a variety of different situations. First step, I would say, number one, is try to decide the neighborhood, or at least the kind of neighborhood that you want to live in. There's a pretty wide variety of places to live in Santo Domingo.
Yes, in terms of what, like, that you're gonna choose that neighborhood.
For example, you could choose a higher end place that'll be more of the big city vibes. For example, Naco, Piantini.
Yes.
You could also choose on the east side things that are a little bit more of a small city vibe, I would say.
But with the time, it's growing, like in Alma Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
It's growing in a way that is becoming like downtown. I would say like in 10 years or maybe less. It's gonna be like in Santo Domingo City, like in downtown.
Right,
So
yeah.
this part of the Santo Domingo, like the east, is growing because most of the thing like in the south is already full.
Yeah, it's crowded in the south.
Mhm.
Now, what other kind of neighborhoods are there?
If you want to live like in un barrio,
Yeah, I mean, most people probably won't want. What if you want that
and
experience?
some people want, like I
Okay.
know some foreign people who like to know the culture in those places. Maybe they are interested, living there.
What are some examples?
Very famous places, La Caleta is close to Boca Chica. It's a good place. La Ureña
Okay.
and other places like Villa Duarte. Those are places like they are already organized. And Alma Rosa too as well. Alma Rosa, it has a place where you can find cheap apartments in Alma Rosa. It's not like the whole place is expensive. There are certain area where you can find cheaper places in Alma Rosa.
There are definitely very nice places in Alma Rosa and on the lower end too.
Yes.
In general, you can find a little bit of everything in Santo Domingo. I knew one person who had a rent as low as $90, and then people who pay well into the thousands. So, it really depends on you. Number two, we're only on number two. Number two, I would suggest,
Number 2.
yeah,
Oh, I was like a number 9.
no. Our second guideline is to consider if you want a furnished or unfurnished apartment. So this is kind of cut and dry. I mean, if you want to just try it out for a little bit, I would probably suggest going for a furnished apartment. Now we don't have to worry about buying furniture because it can add up pretty fast. It can be a big expense. But if you want to design it yourself, you're pretty set on living here, or maybe you just don't want a lot of furniture, then you could get an unfurnished place and you'll probably pay a little bit
No,
less.
but like it's like an option. When you were living in the United States, I got this place a little bit late. You were almost here.
Yeah.
I had a plan B, an apartment. I was going to pay 10,000 pesos. It's like $180, something like
Yeah.
that. They had furniture,
Okay.
just small things like a bed,
Necessities,
AC, yes,
fridge.
and
Stove.
yeah, but was really small.
Okay.
Basically only to sleep. Like let's say if you want to come here and you're gonna spend, let's say, a month, you can go to that place. Maybe you're gonna be most of the time outside, like out, knowing the area.
Yeah, definitely something to consider. Number three, I think you should consider the backup options that an apartment building has. So most apartment buildings,
Se va la luz.
yeah. Thing to consider is if your building has a generator or backup power supply, because the power does go out often. That was something I had in my other apartment in Amarosa. That was nice to have. I mean, it did take like a minute or so to get back on, and then Wi-Fi took another minute, but it was a benefit. But you can always do things like get your own inverter.
Inversor aquí.
Yeah. You can get your own backup power supply, or just something smaller like we have, just a simple battery pack for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we can live with Wi-Fi if we don't have food.
In most apartment buildings, they'll have a tinaco, which is like a cistern on the roof, so that if the water supply goes out, you'll still have water that's from the tinaco, the cistern on the top of the building. Unfortunately, ours doesn't have that. The ones in this residential complex don't have that.
It's a rule. They can't.
They can't have it here.
No, because it's for static.
So for number 4, where should we look for an apartment? On Facebook Marketplace. In the US, I think a couple years ago they banned or prohibited property listings, so you won't find apartment listings in the US probably, but you can still find apartment listings here.
What is the other place?
Mercado Libre.
Mercado Libre. She knows more than me already. Even Instagram. In my experience, Facebook was my option. I tried Mercado Libre, and they never respond. I don't know if maybe other people have other experiences. But on Facebook, yes, they had several options. I would say 60-70% of the time they responded. Before this apartment, I found a different one close to this area. It was in a better place because it was close to Madonna, the gym as well, Jumbo, and restaurant. It was nicer, like the area. I went to the place and I see everything. They had a wash machine, which was really good. And also they had the gas installed in the apartment. Like
the propane tank?
Yes. But they asked for a lot of requirements. This is something that you have to consider. They asked for someone with a high profile.
Someone who had a high credit score?
Yes, they had someone, but still, they keep asking things. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to find another one. It was a headache.
So each apartment, depending on who's running it, will have different requirements. That brings us to number 5, which is find out who you're talking to about the apartment. It could be the owner of the apartment. It could be the landlord, a real estate agent. It could be the lawyer. Figure out who you're talking to and who else is involved in the process. You talk directly to the person who owns this apartment. He was still working through a lawyer, obviously, to get the contract and everything.
But it was way easier than if I was talking directly to the lawyer. But today, we still have communication directly with the owner, which is way easier.
That's something else to keep in mind. Number 6, I always recommend touring the place if possible. You went and toured several apartments. You could see the different options, the things that are close by. That's very important to know how far you're allowed to walk or public transportation nearby. So visiting is always a good idea if possible.
In my case, we got this place because it's close to my job. It's amazing because I only spent 35 pesos, which is
60 cents.
60 cents. That's great. And also save time. It's only 5-10 minutes away from home. Yes.
You don't have to leave like
I could even walk there, but this is hot here most of the time. Then I'm going to get sweaty.
If you check it out, then you can see the environment, what sort of things are around, like how they manage the trash. That's something I would definitely recommend if possible. Like if you want to come and visit the country and stay in an Airbnb while you're checking places out, I would recommend that rather than just jumping right into an apartment. 7th step, once you made your decision, you're ready to lease the apartment, you'll probably be asked, and I think this is pretty common, you'll be asked to pay 3 months worth of rent.
Now, some even ask for 4, which is illegal. I don't know. Someone told me that. They keep 1 for the lawyer, and they give you back the other 2 at the end of the contract. It depends. If you broke something in the apartment, they take it from there. They take the money from.
Yeah, to fix it.
Yes, because they have like a lot of things on the contract. In this case, like the door.
Yeah,
if we
like
broke it, we have to pay for it. Yes.
Toilet.
So if we do that, and at the end they realize that you broke something, then you take the money from there.
Yeah, right.
It's like a
guarantee. Well, that brings us to number 8, which is the actual signing the contract. One thing I highly recommend, because it nearly prevented us from getting the electrical contract, is that you actually read the contract thoroughly, specifically checking for errors, because I don't know what kind of person it was who wrote ours, but there were several just simple errors, like spelling noviembre with a W, or they also put Santo Domingo Oeste, and we're in Este. When we went to get electrical contract, we almost couldn't do it because the first girl was like, oh, it has this error, November, it has a W. And then she went to lunch, and then you tried again.
I tried with a different girl.
Yeah. And then she said, that one's okay, but the fact that it says Oeste, which means west, instead of east in the contract, because we needed to go to the electrical company for the east side, that was the problem. So we took it to a copier and we whited out the O in Oeste. We brought back the other copy, and then we were able to get our electrical contract.
Yes. But it was wasting time.
Yeah. A huge waste of time. So just try to check it thoroughly, because once it's signed, they have to take it. You might be all doing it together with the lawyer and the landlord, but for us, the landlord just like popped over because he lives close by, and then we just signed it, and then he took it to the lawyer.
It was overseas, the lawyer.
It did take a bit of time for us to get the contract back. Also, check if it includes water, because ours does, even though it took us a long time to get it back. I mean, I guess because he was overseas. One thing that we could do without the contract was to get our internet, our Wi-Fi set up.
You don't need the address.
So that's step number 9. I assume most people hoy en día want internet. Well, it's technically one. If you're working remotely, you'll need the internet. So you can get that set up before you have the official contract, as long as you have your address. And then they'll send by someone to install it. That process was pretty smooth. And number 10 is getting the electrical contract. So as I mentioned, for that, we did need a physical copy of our rental agreement. We went to Este because we live in the east, but there are the other Edes that take care of the other regions. Yeah.
East, north, south.
Right. That's what you'll need to do to get an electrical contract. If you're lucky, like maybe there will be a month or so of leeway when you still have electricity, depending on how the last owner left it. We did have electricity for a little bit, and you got to be careful with them. They will tell you what to pay or when to pay, or help you figure out how to pay.
It's like the contract is done.
Yeah.
It's done, so figure it out. I didn't even get an email.
Like, we didn't get the bill for the first round, and then so one day our power was went out. And I was like, oh, it's because we didn't pay our bill? Well, what bill? We didn't get one. Anyways, those are our 10 guidelines, tips, or steps to getting an apartment, finding an apartment to lease in Santo Domingo. Hopefully this could help you. If you want to know the cost of living in the Dominican Republic, especially in Santo Domingo, especially for us, because obviously I can't speak to everyone's experience, then check out that video right here, and I'll tell you in 12 different categories what we spend on average in a month. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Bye-bye. I should have one of these earrings. Are too big and I can't turn my head.
Por eso que te edita tanto.
What?
Por eso que te edita tanto.
Me queda tanto?
Edita.
Oh, yes, my love. Okay. It's so weird doing it with you. I'm not used to it. I'm gonna give you... Oh.
Tú tienes que decirte esa parte que yo hablé y tú lo cortas. Una más importante.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And what are you looking at?
Okay.
Sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
Sweaty.
You might even be able to see. So that's something I would definitely recommend if possible. Like if you want to.
Yes.
Okay. Let me know if you have anything else to add down below. What?
Oh, la risa. Va, cayó en español.
Haha, good. If you are interested in leasing one in Santo Domingo.
Yes.
Okay. If you do want to know approximately the cost of living here, I made a video on that last week, which I'll put right here on your face. Right here on his face, that you can check out, which has the entire cost of living, groceries, gas,
Food, transportation.
that's literally groceries.
Ah.
Yeah.
Comida, agua,